So I think we can start now. Firstly, thank you so much for taking time for this. It's a pleasure to have you here. And I've written about TPL that it's a fascinating growth story. And in Pakistan, we have very rare growth stories and entrepreneurial success stories. And when I look at, as an analyst, when I look at TPL, that's what strikes me the most. That it's a story of a company which started in one area of technology and then used that connections, which a good technology company should have, to expand into various other verticals, insurance, in venture capital, and of course in the tracker business, in mapping, and of course now in properties, where TPL perhaps has what some people call the best built, what was some people call the best landmark building in Karachi. So when I came to Pakistan and I relaunched KSP in 2018, people told me that I'm not from Karachi, I'm from Islamabad, but my in-laws are, Mahmood is, my partner is. So when I used to come to Karachi, they said, the best building in Karachi, which you have to go and see, is this building made by TPL, which of course now they have sold. So, and now TPL is on and off to do other greater things. The other striking thing about TPL, which I am really impressed with, is how they get tier one investors globally and attract global capital. Recently in their insurance business, they got two new investors from Europe, some very, very credible large DFIs. So the true success of an entrepreneurial story, that not only they venture into new verticals and start businesses in those, but they also then get and attract tier one global capital to come and back their entrepreneurial plans. So that's why I requested Ali Jamil Saab to give us time to tell us more about what the company is doing, both on the TPL Corp level, but more importantly, from my perspective, on the property business, because that's where I get a lot of questions from investors, that investors are really keen to know what are the plans of TPL in the property business. So with that introduction, passing it over to you, Ali Jamil Saab, please do tell us. And then the standard format of these webinars is that after your presentation, me and my colleague Sana Khan, who's the director of corporate relationships, we'll kick off with some questions, and then we'll take questions from the audience. And I think we have a lot of people on the call now. So thank you. Over to you.
Ali, thank you very much. First, I'd like to apologize for the 5-minute delay. This was maybe we had the wrong passcode or something. But given the people you have assembled here, I think this looks more like a football match than an analyst meeting. And you always surprise me with the number and the quality of people you are able to attract. I think that's a great thing. It speaks volumes about yourself, and also gives me a lot of confidence that people are looking at Pakistan again, right? So thank you from the Pakistan side, and of course, thank you from my side as well. So what we've tried to do in this is essentially talk a bit about the group. You rightly gave a bit of background. I think most people are aware, but I just took some contingency measures in case people are not aware. And then we talk about our REIT business, which essentially is what we're looking to do and branch out in the very near future. And then I'll also address what is going to remain in the property business, because that's very important, because what we're looking at is TPLP, which is a listed property business, and REIT is one of the components of the business. So I'm going to walk you through 3 separate parts of this presentation. And then, of course, you can interrupt me at any time, but I'm more than happy to take questions after this later. I'm also joined by 2 of my colleagues. One is Jamil Akbar. Jamil Akbar is CEO of TPL Properties, and he's responsible for execution of all the development projects. And I've got Ali Asghar here with me, who's CEO of the REIT business. So if any questions are in their direction, they're more than happy to answer them as well. So this is just a brief on the businesses that we are part of. Started 20 years ago with TPL Tracker, with a small capital base of 50,000 US. Moved on to TPL Insurance in 2006, TPL Life in 2015, TPL Securities somewhere in the middle, maybe 2010, 2011. TPL Properties, which is the incumbent in question, was about 2008 when we first got into this. By way of background, we got into this just by accident, just like we got into all our businesses by accident. We got into tracker business because we felt cars were being stolen, so let's go into this business. We got in the insurance business because Adamji or EFE or the incumbents in those days were not giving discounts to us for tracking because we felt we were doing a good job saving them, recovering stolen cars for them. So they didn't give us a 20% discount. So we went and we established an insurance business, right, with a very small base of 7 million rupees. And that, mashallah, has grown to a very large number now. And like you rightly said, we've got DEG and a couple of other investors, and we have an A+ rating or AA rating on that, sorry. Similarly, so properties, what was the mistake? A mistake was we got a piece of land. We thought we were super smart. The values went up. We thought we were a developer. So we started, let's start construction and let's go the developer model. Let's, sell some space. Started constructing, financial crisis happened. Fortunately, we were not leveraged at that time. We're not leveraged now either, but leveraged at that time. And, we couldn't sell space. So what do we do? So we go back to the drawing board and we revisit the model. And the model revisiting is quite simple. We change from developing to renting. And the reason we got into this was because we could not find any space to rent in Karachi, in a city like Karachi. And that was just basically TPL companies and TRG companies in those days. And that's how we got into it. So that's just a bit of background. This is just a chart which shows exactly the number of listed companies we have, which is 4. We've got several CSR awards, credit rating of Corp, which is the parent is A. Then we've got approximately group revenue last year was about 6. And then our asset base or the market cap is close to about 25 billion or so. Group structure, this is the important slide because it shows what our percentage holdings are in all our businesses. TPL Properties, through Corp, we own about 34%. The rest is owned by me personally. That takes us across the magic number of 51%. Magic number from Pakistan standards, not from international standards. TPL Life, we own about 93%. TPL Tracker, we own about 64%. TPL Insurance, we own about 66% after DEG's rights issue. And other than that, we own about 100% of the REIT management business and other SPVs, which are part of the projects. We will touch upon this later, but as a matter of policy, all the construction projects that we have embarked on are all in SPVs because we feel that in some way that ring fences risk. And similarly, we always anticipated that we'd go into the REIT business. So it just makes a transfer from the property business, which is TPL Properties, to the REIT business, seamless process because a lot of the approvals, etc., are processed in company's name. And when we sell the company or we sell the asset, then we'll have to there was a view that we may need to apply for permissions again. So a lot of our local structures are also based on a local environment and the prevailing circumstances. Okay, why are we here? Properties. We like to create benchmarks, right? So when we got into the property business, like I said earlier, the objective was to have the best commercial space in Karachi. People thought we were nuts. No, people thought I was nuts, sorry. And they thought it would never sell. But I always believe that in Pakistan, it's never demand driven, right? It's supply driven. So when people see something with their eyes, they actually believe that it'll happen. If you look at Dolmen, I'm talking about Dolmen because I think they're also a great developer. Ali's kind of saying, hang on, have I got a Dolmen presentation or I've got a TPL presentation? No, but it's always good to recognize peers. So when Dolmen Mall was made, people thought he was nuts, right? Because he said, who's going to rent at 400 rupees a square foot? But he took the step, and then when the mall was made, people started renting space at 400 rupees a square foot or 300 rupees at that time. Similarly, when we made this, people thought nobody would rent it because the local business groups are not keen on renting space. And most of the big international groups had left Pakistan. And the other banks, who are the other big guys, also, there aren't many multinational banks left in Pakistan. They also don't have budgets. And the multinational companies are pretty much happy where they are. Nobody wants to change, right? So they said nobody would occupy it. But, I think we hold a record that within a short span of time, within I think about a year and a half, we were able to rent the entire asset out, which is, I think, unprecedented and a record. Our market cap is about 11.2 billion, assets about 10.1, and a rating is A+ per Packrat. Our previous IRR on projects, which is Centrepoint, is about 22%, and the ROI has been 130%. What we are working on now is a diversified portfolio of commercial, residential, and mixed projects. There's one thing which we are very keen on, and we like to speak of, and I'm it's personally close to my heart, that any project that we will do now, and any of our projects will all be sustainable projects. That means there will be minimum LEED certified and minimum gold LEED certified. I'll speak about that a bit more later on. This Centrepoint, for some of you who may have seen it, may not have seen, this is what it looks like. These are some of our tenants, our group companies, IBEX, Affinity, part of TRG, us, of course, Bank Al-Habib, Silk Bank, and Gul Ahmed. A total about 350,000 square feet over 28 floors, and when we sold it, 100% occupied as well. And we were also one of 5 buildings which were seismic target or met the seismic threshold for Karachi. Okay, sorry, what's this? People. Okay, sorry, I was just getting these beeping noises. Okay, so the other thing that we have amongst all our that we are quite keen on, or that are very close to our projects, is that we have a team which is a core team. And this team we've taken from across the world who are best of the best in their respective fields. This includes Quirent Partners, who've done some of the best developments in the UK, Atelier 10, who incidentally are Google's main MEP consultants across the world, Design London, or 158 London, as they refer to now. They've done the Lanesborough and several other hotel projects. Facade Consultants, AESG, and G&T, who are the largest privately held design firm in the UK. And they also have projects such as the Shell House and number 1 Hyde Park to their credit. Right now, we'll move to our REIT project, which is a TPL development REIT, which is what we've set up, and I'll talk a bit on that. So this is a development REIT, which will be moving into other areas, but initially it's going as a development REIT. We are looking to target about $500 million over the course of the next several years. Our fund IR is in the region of about 30%, and individual projects range between 20 to 45%. They all grade A, office spaces, residential spaces, and commercial and residential. Commercial also means retail as well. It's a total built-up area which we're looking to do over the course of the next 10 years is close to about 13 million square feet. And we are looking to IPO this out. I'll talk a bit about that later, but looking to IPO this out in the international markets, not necessarily the Pakistan market, over the course of the next 3 to 5 years. So we've given a worst case scenario of 2025, but we're looking to possibly do an IPO a bit earlier, say 2023. There are 3 projects that we've identified, or we have not identified, but we own. One is Technology Park, which I'll speak of later. The second project is a master plan community, which I will also develop on later. And the third project is a residential building. So just like Centrepoint was our commercial entry, Hoshang, which is project C, was our entry, or is our entry in the residential space. Our eventually, over a period of time, when the fund goes to about 500 million, we will be about 10% of shareholder in the fund in terms of our equity investment. Currently, what we're looking to raise in Pakistan is close to, the fund is looking to do about 15 billion rupees, out of which 4 to 5 billion will be TPLs, which will go through TPL properties, and the remaining 11 million will be raising through institutional investors. This is not open to HNIs or to retail investors. So like I was speaking earlier, and the project utilization on this is approximately 18% on project A, which is the IT park. Multi-purpose 59%, which is the mixed development. I'm sorry, just taking these things here. And project C, which is Hoshang, is close to about 15% or so. This is a structure which I thought was quite relevant, which I thought I'd explain now that we have our permissions in place. So if you look here, we've got TPL REIT Pakistan, which is the
Sorry, Ali, you have been muted. You just went mute. Okay.
I don't know who muted me, but
No,
it was you. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. So TPL REIT is the company we made. That's the fund that we'll have. The local RMC, which is the RMC which will control the REIT, which is again in turn controlled by TPL Properties. And I mentioned earlier that TPL Properties will own 100% of the local RMC. We recently got permission, by recent is a week ago, from the central bank to remit funds outside Pakistan to set up the foreign AMC out of Abu Dhabi. And we started the process as of yesterday. That process is about, we already started the process before, but now that we've got the formal approvals in place, we expect that this process will probably take us another 2 to 2.5 months to do. The foreign AMC, which is based at Abu Dhabi, will then control a Cayman feeder fund, which will be fed, I'm using the word fed, by foreign investors, and some of whom we've reached out to already, which include institutions such as OPEC. OPEC is someone we worked with before in the year 2011, and we dispersed with them in the year 2012. We repaid them back the debt we had taken from them 6 years before the term ended. So we have a fairly good commercial relationship with them. And they've come back to us, or we've gone back to them, and they've said, as soon as the fund structure is set up, we will come to you. Now, why are we doing all these fancy things, right? Why are we setting up an ADGM company? Why are we not just taking money directly into Pakistan? Now, there are two issues when anybody invests in Pakistan. I'm highlighting these issues because these issues are not secret, but people sometimes don't like to talk about them. The two big issues are repatriation and devaluation, right? That's it. I mean, there's nothing else there, right? So if you go to Aramco, or I'm giving names here, please, these are generic names. Please don't, given that I'm on a recorded call, so I don't want to be saying anything which I shouldn't be saying. So let's say the generic names of anybody. They are kind of unsure about investing in Pakistan, because whereas there's no bar on them investing in Pakistan, but there certainly is an informal bar on them taking money out of Pakistan, right? So today, if Aramco invests in a company which is a REIT fund, exactly, and tomorrow Aramco wants to sell to SABIC, right, for ease of just explanation, then the money needs to go back to the state bank for it to be remitted out, right, which makes it a very painful exercise. Not that the state bank would stop it, it's just a process. So we said, let's make the fund outside, let's make a Cayman fund. So if tomorrow Aramco wishes to sell to SABIC, they don't need to route the money into Pakistan. They can just do a transfer of shares outside Pakistan. The money doesn't need to come. change in the shareholders register, and end the story. So that's how we target the change of shareholders issue. The second thing on the repatriation and the devaluation is that we will keep the money outside Pakistan until the money is needed in Pakistan for the property projects, right? Now, of course, the next question is, look, if these funds are commitments, why should we, they will not be dispersing to you anyway, so there is no devaluation risk. So yes, there is always a lag between the commitment, the disbursement, and the subsequent remittance. So we try to cover that lag in there. The third part, which is again a very critical part, is the repatriation. Today, if I create a fund and I don't give it a REIT structure, then that means that fund cannot be listed in Pakistan. The moment the fund is listed in Pakistan, that means that anyone who invested in the fund can then take the fund outside Pakistan or take the money or the investment outside Pakistan through the special convertible rupee account, right? I mean, we all know that. So that gives them the ease. So what we will be doing in the future, we'll be listing it in Pakistan, possibly a technical listing, but the main listing will be held overseas just to satisfy the state bank rules. So that's the whole purpose of making this whole entire structure, which is the foreign side and the local side, to address issues which were raised to us over a period of time. Governance is something again very close to heart, because we feel that given that we are a property developer, given the fact that we are making a property fund, there will be a perceived conflict of risk, a conflict of interest, that whatever projects that we do, from the property side will automatically go into the fund side. So what we're doing here is we're separating kind of the investment side from the executive side, and in that we have a separate investment committee which will consist of non-executive members of the company who will decide which projects to go in with and which projects not to go in with. Similarly, on the foreign AMC side, we're also setting up an advisory board, and the fund will be Sharia compliant as well. This is something which is again very critical, and I mentioned that earlier on in my opening lines, that environmental sustainability is something which is going to become, which I feel is critical now, but I feel that it's still not sunk into Pakistan on how important this is going to be going forward. So one is the fact that it's close to my heart, but second is today, if you even look at the textile side, right? So if you look at companies like Suti or with ADM, all of these companies are now going towards platinum certification. Because if they want orders from companies which are good, which are international, which have a certain standard, they all require that people are operating, or the goods that they're getting are from units which are certified in a certain manner, so that they know the quality of the goods. And similarly, the workforce that works there is also treated in that manner. So that's why this is what's been going on. We also feel that going forward, that demand for space will also conform to this very soon. It's maybe not hit us so far, but I feel that going forward, the way things are moving and what you see around you, I think that the demand for this is going to creep up fairly quickly, and the local market will not be designed to give the supply as quick as the demand. Hence, we are keeping this very close to us, and that's why we're looking at all the certifications of the gold and the platinum leaves. I would like to quote OPEC on this. When I met OPEC, I asked them on the fund side, I said, what is one thing which is critical to you that we must do as a developer, irrespective of everything else that we do, what XXX, previously they had rules, you can work with Iranian companies, then there are rules you can work with X company or Y company. They said the only thing we will never compromise on now is the environment, right? And that was a big eye-opener for me as well. So whereas it was obviously on my agenda that this should be there, but that was from such a large institution to give that as a policy direction just was, just told me that this is what will be the requirement of all institutions going forward. That's my view. This is a very scary slide, right? If you look at the bottom part, bottom graph, we've got countries which I feel in the similar diaspora. We've got Bangladesh, we've got India, Malaysia, Pakistan, and Thailand. Now, if you look at Pakistan, it's 5 million square feet is sustainable. That's it, right? And 5 million square feet, and Habib Bank in Karachi is about 500,000 square feet. Surti is about 600,000 square feet. AKU will be about 1.5 million square feet. So it's a very small number, right? Now we believe that if this number, by us increasing or by us delivering 13 million, we feel just us alone will triple that, the SDG sustainable projects in the country. But of course, other than us, there'll be others as well. But if you just look at us in comparison to our neighbors and to the region, you'll see how low we are, right? And that's why it's a very disturbing number. So this is what is the heart of the presentation. What are we looking to do, right? So this is the first project. It's a technology park. It's the first technology park in Pakistan. We want it to be the first technology park in Pakistan of this scale. I think we're competing with Islamabad on this, but they make it first. That's fine too. But it'll certainly be the first one in Sindh. Gold certified. We're looking at a 42-key business hotel managed by us again. We feel it's too expensive to engage with an international chain for something this small. Development cost is about $36 million, and the IRR on this is about 28%. We're estimating a total built-up area on this will be about 600,000 square feet, and we're expecting this to complete by October 2023. Why 2023? Why not 2024? Why not 2022? We're looking at this not as a high rise, we're looking at this as a mid rise, looking at possibly ground plus 14. We feel that ground plus 14 projects in Pakistan are much quicker to complete than ground plus 36 or ground plus 38. Given the fact that land is an IT park, given the fact that land was not as expensive as say main Clifton or main DHA, we feel that let's capitalize on that and just deliver quicker rather than deliver something which is high rise and takes a couple of years more to deliver. So the three towers that you see here, the first tower is the office tower on the extreme left. The second tower is an office tower, and on the top of it is the hotel, the 42-key hotel. And the back of the both towers, the third tower, is the parking and the swimming pool and the restaurants, etc., etc. So we already acquired the land. The concept design is concluded, and now we're just looking at regulatory approvals. We are looking to have this under the STZA, which is the Special Technology Zone Authority. We made the application, and I'm aggressively pursuing it to make sure we get there. And that means that, what does this mean, the STZA? That just means that we'll get some duty concessions, and anybody coming here will get tax holidays, etc., etc. Just a location for some of you who know Karachi. Where is it located? It's located very close to where we are at Center Point. It's about, I would say about 200 meters away, approximately. We know the area, we've developed the area, we built up the infrastructure in this area. So we feel that this would be a good addition in this area. These are some of the features. These are not Shutterstock images, these are real images. Just for some of you who may think that. So as you can see, one of the conditions of having a LEED green or LEED gold project is the amount of greenery that you have in there, the amount of open spaces that you have in there, and amount of sunlight that you need in there. So these are some of the main features of this. The second project, which is probably the most exciting one, is the Mid-Rise community. This is about a 40-acre project. I'll talk a bit about the location in the subsequent slides. And I've been working on this for close to about 3 years. Unfortunately, did not have the capital to get this, but I think that it's very easy to take a project or take a piece of land on main DHA and develop it. But if you're doing that, your margins will be fairly constrained, and you'll just be, one of several who can do that. So we thought, let's do something which is different. Let's take an area, make it a gated community, and make it living. So where we have commercial space, where we have residential space, and where we have retail space. Retail space being, again, I like to highlight, being a very small component of this. The total development cost on this is about $675 million. And the IRR we're expecting on this is in the region of about 45%. Total built up area, like I said earlier as well, is about 12.4. We've already kind of started the process for a master planner. We hope to complete that process of selection of master planner for this by about next week. And as soon as that's completed, we start the process of master planning, and then we can start in the process of architectural side once that's done. So we're moving very aggressively on this. It's a very ambitious project. Why are we doing it here? I will just go to that quickly. This is, some of you may know this area. This is next to National Industrial Park. I don't know if you can see this very clearly or not, but I may need to move there just to show this. So if you see this is the subject site here. This is National Industrial Park here. This is DHA Golf Club, and this is Airman Golf Club. This is Indus Hospital, and this is DHA Phase 8 in Vista. Now, why here, right? And this is the magic chart here. Most of you know that the government of Sindh is making Malhir Expressway. The Malhir Expressway is going to cut the commute times all the way from the outskirts of Karachi to the middle of Karachi. The Malhir Expressway passes through two projects. One project is our IT park, where you see this thing in purple. That's the IT park. It just passes there, it ends there. The second is this link road, which passes in front of our subject property, 40 acres, and ends at the Airman Golf Club. What does this mean? This means that the commute time from center point to the project site today is about 20 minutes if one passes through Indus Hospital. Some of you may have done the journey, some of you may not have done the journey, but it's a complicated journey. It's a roads not great. This journey time due to Malhir Expressway will be reduced from 20 to 25 minutes to close to about 3 minutes. And that is going to pass right in front of this, right? So there will be an exit here. So people who are here, whether it's commercial or residential or retail, can just go to get onto the Malhir Expressway. What we're also working on is another road which links this to DHA. We are working with 3 firms and making a link road, possibly to link DHA directly with this project. It's about the reason we've not put that there is because it's not finalized, and given the fact that we are presenting to people who are, it's a listed company, I need to be fairly sure what I'm putting in has to be 100% complete. So I'll speak about it. It's a project which we are going to fund ourselves. It's a bridge which cost about 2 to 2.5 billion rupees, and that reduces the commute time from DHA Phase 8 from about 5 minutes to about 30 seconds. Right? In terms of size, just to put things in perspective, Emaar project, Jimmy used to be with Emaar before. He can raise his hand. We can't see his hand, so he just raises his hand. That's good enough. Emaar project is about 70 acres. This project is about 40 acres. It's about it's a significant size. Compared to the Emaar project, it's fairly comparable in terms of size, and it's waterfront. So this is probably my most exciting project. And of course, infrastructure on that is complicated, but it's getting there. And people are, whoever is, and what we're doing, which is really important, is that these assets, when we transfer them to the REIT, specifically last one, we'll be transferring it at the same value at which you acquired it for. So anybody coming into the REIT will have the benefit of of the valuation upswing. For the benefit of the people here, I can quote how much we paid for it. It's about 20,000 rupees a square yard approximately. So 20,000 rupees a square yard for commercial land, 3 minutes from or 30 seconds from DHA, or about 4 minutes from Central Point, where the prevailing rate for commercial property is 400,000 rupees a square yard, I would say is a significant valuation upswing, which I'm sure the smart people here can verify that. So what is this, right? This is luxury residences. Why did we get into it? 2 reasons. One is because we came in, we felt that this is probably, if you look at the whole city of Karachi, and if you ask me which is one heritage project which one feels signifies the city of Karachi, I would say it would be this project. We got into this, and the objective was to just make a high-rise project, a high-end project, have 1 apartment per floor, and make this a milestone of our recognition, a milestone project for our business. So that when, like I said earlier, right in the beginning of the presentation, when people look at commercial projects, they look at us for benchmarking. We want people to look at One Hoshang for benchmarking of residential projects. So whereas this project may be costlier, I shouldn't be saying this, but it is costlier than most existing projects in Pakistan, but it'll help me sell any further projects that I may wish to do, whether it's the 40 acres or whether it's another project which I do, which is 30 acres or 90 acres or whatever I do. So this will be, I use these projects as marketing tools for future projects. And that's very important. And that's one of the decision makings which I went through when I had to decide, or when we had to decide whether or not to sell Center Point or not. But the decision making was, are we a developer? Yes. Are we getting good value? Maybe. We sell into Bank Al Habib, which is again, in fact, they're amazing value seekers. If you sell it for X to Bank Al Habib, that means the market will perceive it at X plus X. Is the timing good? It's the middle of the pandemic. It's office space. I mean, these are all bad words, right? Pandemic, office space, commercial space, rental. Are we getting good value? Yes. Can we deploy this money within the next 3 months and make a 5x return on it over a period of 5 years? Yes. And that's a simple process, right? And that's the decision we took at that time. So it wasn't a difficult decision. People may think it's a difficult decision, but it was an easier decision than most people think. So that's Hoshang, 275,000 square feet. IRR, like I said, is costlier. Hence the IRR, this is 20%. Development period is 3 years, June 2024. Land is acquired, everything is done. Inshallah, groundbreaking tomorrow, about 1 p.m. Then we're good to go. These are some of the images of the units in there. We're also making a small museum because we believe in public spaces. Then there's a cinema there. There's not a presentation for any of you to buy property in here. I'm going to skip through this, but just some images here. On that note, Ali is laughing, but this is it's by invitation, right? So it's by invitation. You cannot just tell me like I'm offering you 70 crores and you give me an apartment. It ain't happening. I'll do a side deal with you, but it ain't happening otherwise. Pool, etc., etc. So how do we? So how does the company make money, right? And that's the first question you guys are asking. And whatever I can see today, I can see that you guys are there. You're going to make money by the REIT business. How will the property company make money? So the property company will make money in 4 main areas, right? Of course, one is through real estate development. Wherever we are developing any projects for the REIT, we will be charging the REIT, right? Charging the REIT in terms of a development cost, which is the cost that we will recover of all the people that we employ. Secondly, it will be whatever profit accrues to the REIT management business as a function of holding the property. We will get a certain X percentage of the profit, right? Between 15 to 20%. So if we put in If the total cost of the project is 100 and the project is sold for 120, then 15 to 20% of that will accrue to TPL Properties. The second thing is, of course, the dividend income, from the REIT units. I've already mentioned the capital appreciation. Well, I've mentioned the profit as well, but there'll also be, of course, a capital appreciation, but that's again a valuation appreciation. And the third part is that when we're looking at setting up a REIT, other than the development side, there will be a significant fee income which will accrue to us, right? So today, if we manage to raise, or we're on the way to raising 11 billion rupees, and we're raising another $200-300 million internationally, looking at a fund size of about 40 to 50 billion rupees, there will be a significant amount of money which will accrue to the RMC on that. So that's the third one. And the fourth one, of course, is going to be, we also have a property management company. So when we sold this to Bank Al-Habib, the deal is that we will continue managing Centrepoint for the foreseeable future for Bank Al-Habib. Similarly, on One Hoshang as well, the first thing that people ask us is who will be maintaining the project. So we have to maintain the project, otherwise people who may be interested in buying new apartments or anything will not buy anything there unless we maintain it. So that's the second part. The third thing is that we had announced earlier, we have not spoken about it this year, but we are also looking at warehousing very aggressively outside Karachi, given the fact that the retail space rates are coming down, given the fact that e-commerce is increasing. We are looking at investing some money in not in retail, but in smart warehousing, so that last mile providers can actually go there, or large e-commerce guys can go there and get the goods stocked and get the delivery to Karachi within 30 minutes. So pretty much that's the story. Thank you.
Thank you for this. This was very, very interesting. I can see now why real estate is such a attractive asset class for Pakistanis, because the building looks all the buildings and the pictures you showed looked so nice. The technology park reminded me of Bloomberg here in London.
Maybe it's the same architect. I don't know.
It might be. Because it looked eerily similar. And Bloomberg building is considered to be the best building here in London. It's an iconic building which they recently made. So, and the design and the colors look very similar. And I could also see why there's complexity around the structuring of a REIT. And that's such a big missing area in Pakistani capital markets, that while real estate is perhaps the most biggest and popular asset class, it's not really represented in the capital markets except for Dolmen, which you mentioned. So certainly that, and when you explained the structure and how you got approvals, I could see how you have solved that complexity, which so far has prevented other companies from the real estate sector from entering into the formal market. So thank you for this presentation. We have 15 minutes for questions. I'll kick off with my colleague Sana Juan, who's the Director of Corporate Relations. He told me he had some questions. So Sana, please go ahead with your questions, and then we'll open up for the audience.
Sure. Assalamu alaikum, Ali. Thank you so much for taking your time. How are you? It was a fantastic presentation, and the fact that you're doing so many other things also, and the fact that this itself is such a big project. It's easy to forget that people is doing so many other things also in the insurance space, in a lot of other space. I mean, you've sort of answered the question, but I'm just going to sort of rephrase it, and if you can explain a bit for the investors also and for everybody else. There is a trend of co-working spaces coming up. And as you said, a lot of large MNCs have either moved out of Pakistan, or they're pretty satisfied with where they are. So how do you see the commercial real estate market playing out? Because globally, we've seen that it has taken a hit. So in Pakistan, especially, if you've seen, there are 2 more towers right next to Dolmen also that they've just opened up. So do you see a supply-demand issue, or do you think things have really recovered and you'll be able to sort of manage it?
Look, so there are several questions you asked there. I'm going to try to keep my answers brief because I'm sure there are other people as well.
Sure.
So if you look at the office environment in Pakistan, so, people forget that there's only one building left now, which is available for rent, which is good quality space. That's Dolmen. There's nothing else left, right? So when we were making this, people thought like, you kisko rent karoge? हमने कहा ये है ही नहीं कोई rent करने के लिए, दो तो building है. So we doubled the rental space by bringing in. By selling this, we've gone back to zero. So as far as that's concerned, that's not an issue as far as demand and supply is concerned. Now, your second question on co-working and stuff. So within this IT park, we are having a couple of floors as co-working. Now, work from home is working well in some areas in Pakistan, but you must understand the Pakistan dynamics, right? People live in homes which have like more than like 2 occupants. So we have like, joint families with 10 people without bijli and without air conditioning. So most of the people who come to work maybe in Center Point have a very difficult time leaving it because there's bijli, there's pani, and there's air conditioning, right? So until these basic issues, infrastructure issues are not resolved in the country as a whole, I think work from home will not work. We've been trying it at TRG for 19 years now, right? Work from home. I can assure you it's a great thing for us if you could work it because we've got about 9,000 agents, right? And today, even on this IT park, I mean, they've come to me and they said, 600,000 square feet. One company's come in technology, they want 200,000 square feet. TRG wants another 200,000. I have a waiting list, right? Just to answer that question really objectively.
Right. Excellent. Ali, do you want to start with the questions?
Yes, I think we can. And on that, just going on that point of demand, I can assure you that there's a lot of demand. We are taking space and we have been looking to get space, and it's not easy to find. And my friends ask me for favors like, can you introduce us to somebody in Dolmen so I can get a space over there? So certainly Karachi has a space shortage. We can kick off with the first question. It has come from Syed. Please write your question on the chat so I can read it. He's asking, what's the management fees and profit sharing on the sale of the project for TPLP? I'm assuming he's referring to.
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of management fee, we are looking at 1.5% of the NAV. While in terms of the project carry, which we'll be making, which Ali mentioned earlier, so on the differential on the profit of the project, so project carry will be around 15%.
Ali, I have a question, and it's more related. It's linked with the question which my colleague asked, which is that you're also the CEO of TPL Corp. So if you look from a holding company's perspective, you have a lot of interesting businesses going on. Like, I personally think insurance is massively interesting, and we hosted your colleagues on Tracker side, and they talked about their plans. When you see yourself from the Topco perspective, where do you see the most value and where do you see the most potential upside?
Look, again, that's a very difficult question, but I'll answer it very simply. If I was not operating in Pakistan, I would say possibly the tracking business because of the technology kit, right? But because I'm operating in Pakistan and the fact that everybody loves property, and there's such a, and given the whole, the construction package and everything else, I would say this business, and hence, to answer your question even more objectively, hence I'm CEO of this company, right? But I'm CEO, of course.
Absolutely, I think your action is showing the preference. Thank you for that. Moving to the next question, and I don't really get the question, but I'm still reading it. Wali Sheikh is asking, why not opt for a REIT?
We have opted for REIT.
Yes, so thank you for that. Harun Farooq is asking, can you share the price at which which Bank Alibi paid for Centrepoint?
I think that's a public number, right? Close to about 8 billion.
Got it. Thank you.
That's the highest per square foot. That's the highest per square foot paid for any commercial space in the country.
I can understand why it was a great building, and I love the views from the building. One of our clients, an asset management company, was based over there, MCB Arif Habib, and I always loved going to their offices just because of the views from the building. Saifuddin Shamsi is asking, what was the equity IRR on Centrepoint?
Equity IRR was about 21. 21%.
It's region of
21%.
Thank you. We still have 4 minutes. So if you have more questions, please write. Ali Zafar is, he's saying, I don't have any question. He's saying, just comments. All of this looks super. Pakistan needs a project and my best wishes. So Ali Zafar, passing your best wishes.
Yeah.
And I certainly agree and share Ali's views that I think, you are doing a massive contribution to Pakistan, and then of course by building these properties and by creating the jobs and all that stuff, but also from the capital markets perspective, where I really care about that, it will unlock and bring more, set up the framework for real estate to come and go list on the public market.
Ali, let me tell you, I'm sorry, I will answer the question, but let me give you one very basic number, which I think I missed out here. In the entire sector today, and that's why banks are having a very tough time lending in this sector, is because there are only 3 listed companies. There's us, there's Dolmen, and there's Space, right? There are 75 private limited companies. The rest are all partnerships and AOPs. So if anybody wants to look at this sector, the first port of entry is us, right? If they want exposure to the property sector. And hence we have all these people, coming up to us and saying, now I have to tell people, you want to invest with us, please go in the REIT when it opens up. But even that's also closed up now. So it's a good problem for us to have. So what we may also do then is close our round, the fund, as soon as we reach a target, we'll close it, start developing it, and then maybe go for, fund number 2 after 2 years or something. I'm not going to wait, wait for things to happen anymore. Just close it and move on. And that's the plan.
No,
it's a good problem. Good problem.
Certainly. And you're pathblazer, you are creating the path for this whole sector. So I salute that from as an entrepreneur, something which you're doing, which I'm sure must be super, super challenging. Hassan Rashid is asking, how can we get access to the slides for your presentation?
How do we do this?
One thing would be great if you could put it on your website, perhaps, or if you share with me, I can share with everybody.
That would be more better.
Yeah, I'll share with you.
Suleiman Pervez from Lahore is asking, when would you start booking for one Hoshang? And I think you've said it's invitation only. So, but still, I suspect.
You need to know only Khwaja. We launched 9 apartments in the first phase, right? By name, because people had told me about this several years ago. And those 9 went in close to about 2.5 minutes, maybe. And the remaining 10 or 11, we probably may launch maybe about December or Jan.
Okay, so Suleiman knows now when that will be available. Kamlesh is asking that any thoughts on real estate amnesty given by the government, and how will it affect your projects if government does not extend the amnesty given to the real estate sector?
That's a great question, right? So a lot of people ask me, how do you deal with the gray and the black, right? So very easy answer, we don't. So we only operate in white, and that's how we operate. Amnesty, our projects, we haven't done any of our projects in the amnesty. So it's a different target market. So the developer in the amnesties is not the same developer as us, right? So you have different categories of developers. I'm not saying that we are a great developer and someone else is not a great developer. I'm saying we just cater to different markets. Tomorrow when we launch, I've launched one Hoshang for a certain market segment, done. I've launched IT Park for a certain market segment. I've already told you what we've achieved in that, right? Without even launching it. Now the mid-rise, or what we're looking at today there, is going to be a lifestyle again. So it will be affordable apartments for middle-class people, professions, right? I don't like the word middle class. I think it's a rude word. For professionals, right? Who can work there and who can also live there. Because salary levels have increased. People are, more affluent now. So this is what we're catering to. And those guys who we're looking at are not going to be carrying, briefcases of cash to us. They'll be coming to us and say, you know what, we received a bonus of, 1.5 crore rupees last year in 5 years. Can you give us financing of another 3 crores? And we'd like to buy a home. And that's the kind of market we're looking at. I'm not looking at, some speculator coming in and buying 5 buildings. And that's not what I'm catering to. So maybe that answers.
It certainly does, and thank you for highlighting that. And I suspect that's the reason also why you can get international investors such as the ones you mentioned to partner with you, because that's the categorization of the sector where you are going for. I know we are out of time, and but I'll just squeeze in 3 more questions. So please.
I'm open, right? So I can answer them. So
thank you. Faizan is asking, what is the price of one apartment at One Hoshang?
Yeah, so the lowest, I'll answer that. So the lowest floor, which is the sixth floor, right, is close to about 205 million. And let me answer the next question. What's the size of it? It's about 4,500 square feet, plus 3 car parkings, plus storage. So what does that translate to? That translates to something in the region of about 45,000 rupees a square foot, approximately. Am I right, Jimmy? Correct, yeah.
Thank
you.
I've
answered 2 questions for you.
You have indeed. Shamsuddin Shah from Alfala Investment is asking that how much will be financed through debt cumulatively for all the 3 projects?
Cumulatively for all 3 projects, right? I think that's a good question. Whereas we have the debt lines available to us, it's a question of how much we wish to stagger the purchases, right? So if you're looking at individual projects like the IT park, given that we have somebody who's come to us and wants to purchase X 100,000 square feet from us now, then what we may do is just sell that today and not take any debt, right? Or if we raise more money in the REIT, then we just attribute more money in the REIT in terms of equity to that project. So that's the IT park. For Hoshang, again, the same model, given that we already sold X number of apartments, the debt financing, I would say, would be marginal. As far as the third one, the 40-acre one, again, we are attributing a significant portion of the REIT proceeds to go in that project. So that will depend on when we wish to launch the project. If we wish to launch the project in year 3, then we'll need debt. If you want to launch the project in year 1, I would say we won't need the debt. So it's all a function of the market and when you wish to launch the project, right? Because debt you tend to take from banks or from the person who's buying your property. Because when he gives you an advance, the way I see it, it's a liability, right? So bank liability you pay for, this liability you don't pay for. In either case, it's a question of maths, right? What makes more sense? Can you borrow at CIBOR +2 now and not give a discount of 20%? I mean, that's the call one needs to take.
Thank you. And the last question, and I'm combining a few questions in this one and taking the liberty to change it a bit, is that a lot of people are asking that how would you value this business? Now, people are asking what's the book value of TPLT, because I suspect that would be one way of valuing the company, to assign a multiple to the book value. So would love to divide this into 2 questions. Firstly, what is the book value of the property business? And secondly, if you were to value this business, how would you look at this? And do excuse me for asking this question. I've never covered real estate before, and in Pakistan, because real estate has not been in the listed space, so I can understand that a lot of people will struggle to understand, how should we value real estate businesses. So would love to get.
So let's make it simple, right? First of all, I will not tell you how I'll value it. So let's go to the easy part first. So book value is about 20 rupees a share, right? Approximately. 20 rupees a share does not include any valuation gains on any of the properties that we bought so far. Okay. It does not include the valuation gain on Hoshang, does not include the valuation gain on the IT park, and does not include the valuation gain on the 40 acres as well. Now, just to give you an idea, the IT park has gone up since the time we bought it to today, gone up in value about 2.5 times. So, and the total amount we spent on land, just to give you an idea, is about not the IT park land collectively, because I have to be very careful in numbers I'm giving you. Amount we spent on land so far, about 2.5 billion approximately. Right? So you can calculate the gains based on that in terms of the book value. We have about 300 million shares outstanding, or 330 million shares outstanding. Right? So you can do the maths on that. The third part, which is the tricky part, you can value this based on several methods, right? I mean, you guys know this better than I do. These are all projects, right? These are SPVs, these are standalone projects. How do you value standalone project of anything, whether it's cement or whether it's fertilizer, whether there's an IRR, there's a discounted code flow or discounted cash flow method, and you base your valuation on that number of shares and when the cash flows are coming through. I think, unless I missed something. Jameel?
I mean, I would add in future potential. So, you know, a lot of businesses right now may not, I mean, our business may not reflect all the value that it's captured today. It's building its foundation as well for a future larger platform. So accessing that at an earlier stage versus a later stage gives you a future potential as well. But I think you've captured the rest.
You know, accountants try to be as objective as possible rather than subjective. So I've given you the objective answers. The rest is up to you.
Indeed, you have. Thank you for that. And I'll just, ask one question which has come because I think it requires clarification. It would be great if you can answer it. Somebody is asking that, is there any government shareholding, direct or indirect stake in the technology park?
Zero. A resounding zero. We don't try to, to work with the government.
And one more question, sorry, Saifuddin Shamsi is asking that balance sheet shows 2 billion of short-term borrowing. Is this being used to finance project development?
I think that was an old balance sheet. So everything else, it's all repaid now.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. This was a very, very interesting and interactive session. And I think, I know your property is not for sale, but I suspect that after this webinar, you'll probably get a few interested buyers as well. So, but that was not the intention for sure. And would love to get a copy of the presentation. And thank you for all the stuff that you're doing.
Jameel is just going to send across to you. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
And anytime questions, more than happy to answer them.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We will bother you. And my colleague Sana Khan will probably follow up with more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali.
Okay, for that.
Allah Hafiz.